Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Kara. You've been getting my emails. I am the resident educator at Smore. Um, Maybe you've joined me on an earlier webinar, so I'm sorry if this is repetitive. And I just wanted to share a little bit about my background. I spent 8 years as a high school English teacher, 8 years as a middle school principal, and 8 years as head of school at a private school. And during that time, I earned a master's in education leadership from Teachers College and a doctorate in teaching and learning from NYU. I also spent 5 years as the executive director of a nonprofit called Math for America, for which I developed a professional learning community for outstanding STEM teachers in the New York City DOE. I actually started at Smore 2 weeks before the pandemic lockdown. And as you can imagine, I threw myself into doing my best to support remote learning. And at Smore, I make content for our Education Hive. I write education-focused newsletters, one for our own employees and one that's for customers. I write our blog, I write all of our tweets, I consult with all of our teams about the needs of teachers, principals, librarians, school counselors, etc. This is my third webinar for Smore. I've got some more planned, but because I stepped out of a building before the pandemic, I'm not as adept on Zoom as folks who spent a year teaching on it. So apologies for any snafus. And I also want to mention that one of my biggest pet peeves is having slides read to me. So I'm going to share slides with you that have lots of info on them, but I'm not going to read the info to you. I'm going to say other things than what's on the slides. And then the other thing, on a more personal note, the reason that I wanted to share my credentials is because it's really meaningful to me that a tech company would create a position like mine and hire a veteran like me for it. And as a principal, I was always suspicious of any product or pitch that didn't actually come from someone with an education background. But our CEO is the son of an educator, and caring for the needs of educators really does always come first at Smore. And so with that, let's jump right into the topic of building a culture of communication in the building. So you all are busy people. I appreciate that you've taken the time to join me. My goal today is to give you concrete, actionable tips that you can implement immediately. Feel free to make use of the chat and ask me questions. I usually have someone who's helping me out on the chat. I don't today, so I'm going to do my best to, excuse me, balance both. Okay. So number one, principals updates to faculty and staff. There are lots of ways to define what a principal's central responsibilities are. I pulled this list off the internet, and I liked this because I thought it pretty concisely summed up what we're responsible for as principals. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take each of these bullet points and show you how you can use a weekly update as one means of carrying out each of these responsibilities. Okay, so number one, what you choose to highlight in your faculty update reflects your values as an educator and models your vision for the teachers in your building. I have a saying that I'm fond of, what you permit, you promote. So if you shift your thinking to what you want to promote about your vision of academic success for all students, what does that look like? And, you know, feel free to put your ideas in the chat. So these 4 suggestions can be highly visual and all are open to wide interpretation, depending on your school's mission and values. For example, is a student win a student getting a top grade, a student exhibiting an act of kindness, a student taking initiative, a student who gains some kind of outside recognition? Whatever it is for you and your school, the more you show it, the more the value will take hold. English teachers always tell their students, show, don't tell. Same goes for here. If you tell faculty members that you've created a climate hospitable to education, what's their response likely to be? Well, at best, an eye roll. So your weekly update is an opportunity to show them. And again, what might this look like? Well, celebrating their work, teachers' work for one, but always with the lens of your school's mission and values. One teacher might lead her students to top reading scores on the state assessment each year, but another might form a partnership with a school for the deaf and have students cross-teaching. Both of these are great work, but also reflect really different definitions of what great work or successful teaching looks like. So cultivating leadership is closely linked to valuing faculty. 3 suggestions for how to do so in your newsletter. 1, name check anyone who steps up to lead an initiative, fill in for someone else, or share knowledge. 2, invite teachers to guest edit an update featuring whatever they find valuable. 3, post regular call for leaders for any kind of club, initiative, or activity that you think a teacher could take charge of. This also circumvents charges of favoritism if everyone has the equal opportunity to volunteer for something. Next, 4, improving instruction. In every update, include a helpful resource, a blog post you've encountered, a tip a teacher has shared with you, a link to a great do now, something actionable that won't take too long to read or to implement. Also share something that inspires you, a quote, a meme, a funny mug, a song, whatever it is that's helping you to get through the week. Not only does it help faculty to know you, it helps set a tone. Lastly, consider translating teacher observations into newsletters. When you can embed photos of the room, students at work, videos of the teacher teaching, when you can link to resources specific to how that teacher needs to improve, it has a huge impact. I actually took a crack at a starter template for teacher observations. It was fun to work on, actually, and you can find it at the link below, and you can personalize it as you see fit. And also, just a note that I'm going to send a follow-up newsletter tomorrow or the day after that will have links to all of the templates I show you here, and to these slides, and to a recording of the webinar. So don't worry about taking notes. I'm going to send you everything. Okay, and then 5, manage all the management, bureaucracy, details. Everybody hates meetings. The more info you can pack into your updates that reduces meeting time, the more efficient and productive your meetings will be. And I'm sure everyone could add to this list, and feel free to do so. But the more you're able to do this, the more you send a really important message, a message that says, like, I value your time, all caps. And again, if you want a starter template, here's a little screen share of one that I made that you can find in our Educator Hive, and that I will include for you in the follow-up email. So as a principal, you're setting the tone for communications in your update to faculty, and also in your update to parents, which I'm not really covering in this webinar because it was the topic of the last one. And I'll include all of the info about that one in the follow-up. But to really build a culture of communication in your building, teachers have to be regularly communicating with families. And I don't know about you, but in my years as a building leader, this was not an easy sell. However, I think if I had actually known at the time what the research said about this, I would have approached it differently. There is a really simple but very powerful reason behind all of this improvement that I've listed on the slide. The more parents hear from their child's teacher and principal, the more they feel in the know about what is happening with their child at school. The more parents feel involved in school life, the more they trust the adults in the building. And that is the key to student success right there, trust. The more parents trust the adults at the building, the more they support their child's learning. And I think the way I've come to understand it and think about it now, family communication is as integral to a child's learning and development as the choice of curriculum or instructional methods. And it really all comes back to trust. If parents trust their child's teacher, what happens? They do a better job of supporting their child's learning. So the essential question, I don't have a summary slide answering the essential question because I think it's really different depending on every school's mission. If you have ideas about this and you want to pop your thoughts into the chat, I would love it. If you're doing 14 things at once as you're listening, don't worry about it. But I wanted to put it out there as the sort of the driving question as you think about how you want teachers to communicate with families. So once you've established that you want your faculty communicating with families, you've got some decisions to make about the updates themselves. So are they weekly? Are they bi-weekly? Or my least favorite option, are they monthly? Will there be a set day and time for sending them? 2, can teachers choose any backgrounds, colors, fonts that they want? Or do you prefer a uniform branded look? Or is there a happy medium in there? Number 3 takes that a step further. Do you want to create a template with specific headers that all teachers need to use? Or do you want to give them a kind of list of must-have types of info and let teachers take it from there? And again, I don't have a particular opinion on this because I think it's a really individual decision based on the mission and values of your school. But do remember that whatever decision you make is a reflection of the direction you're leading the school in. And so I made this parent communication template as a way to help answer exactly the questions I just posed in the previous slide. You can find it in our Educator Hive. And again, I'll send you a copy of it. And I wanted it to serve double duty. So the first half of it is PD on parent communications. I linked to resources for dealing with difficult parents, for connecting with multilingual parents, and other basic tools for effective parent communications. And then the whole second half of the template is a weekly update that's easy to duplicate and personalize. And if you're just getting your faculty started with consistent communications, this is a good one for you to share with them. And then a really important way to reduce the burden of weekly updates is to foster a collaborative approach. Teachers can create shared folders, whether it's by department or by grade team. They can edit newsletters together. They can assign a co-teacher to take photographs during the week. They can even have students writing up a regular feature. When something is a shared experience, it both relieves pressure and creates a more cohesive and consistent set of updates. And then each teacher can maintain their own mailing lists and send the co-created update to their own individual parent groups. And then as the building leader with a team account, you can see all of your faculty members' newsletters and their newsletter stats. It makes it easy to see who's doing what they're supposed to be doing and also how are they doing at it. Are they getting clicks? Are their newsletters being read? It also makes for easy wins for you for your updates to faculty. You can tap teachers who are doing a great job to share their tips with the rest of the team. You can highlight great faculty newsletters in your own updates, and you can celebrate improving engagement rates. And the more you tout consistent parent communication as a school value and an educational win, the easier it will be to build a culture of communication in your building. So now I just want to share a few newsletter tips with you. So as educators, we also do a lot of writing, but we need to let go of a lot of the rules that we have ingrained in us about writing, what writing, good writing looks like. We have become a nation of skimmers. So when it comes to sending updates home, it's best to keep in mind that folks are not sitting down to enjoy your update like we used to sit down with a book. I'm sure you've heard of Blinkist, the app that reduces great books to bullet points. That is really the model of writing that we need to follow. As a former English teacher, it is painful. I know, but let's talk about what it looks like in action. And here are 3 good tips for you to follow. 1, self-check on mobile. Every newsletter platform that you use gives you the option to send yourself a test. I don't know how many of you send yourself test after test. That would definitely be me, but that's not the tip. The tip is send yourself a test, but then read the test on your phone. If you find yourself scrolling without actually reading, it means your text is too long. Go back and edit it down to the essentials and then send yourself another test. Once you're happy with the experience of reading it on your phone, then you're ready to send it. Because another important email stat to remember is that 85% of users use smartphones to access, let me say that again, 85% of smartphone owners use their phones to access email. So few people are actually reading their emails on their computers. And because we are a nation of skimmers, the paragraph really needs to go the way of the dinosaur. So you can see this is the same text on the 2 sides of this slide, one written as a traditional paragraph and one just cut down into a numbered list with some highlighted bits to it. Stick with bullet points and numbered lists whenever you can. It's far more likely that folks will absorb the info you're trying to give them, and that's really what it's all about. You just want them to take in the information. If you think about the documents that your school sends out, many could be recreated in a newsletter format so that the document is translatable. And just this morning, I saw a Smore parent handbook posted on Twitter. I've created templates for parent conferences, for IEPs, for book reports, which are all available for duplication on the Smore section of the Hive. And if you have ideas for other types of typical school communications that would be important for families to translate, I would love to hear your ideas because I'm happy to keep making templates that are useful for people. In the meantime, this slide, the focus of this slide is just other ideas for how to be creative with your material to catch people's attention. And some of these ideas, you know, they take a little bit more time, but they will catch people's interests. And here's just a final summary slide that pulls together most of what I've talked to. All right, I'm going to say goodbye. Thanks so much, everybody.